Chapter 310 deals with just multiplying fractions and mixed numbers. So we're going to start out with a fairly simple model. Let's say I was going to give you 2/3 of the 9 presents that I have here. So we're going to take our total of 9 presents, our whole amount, and we're going to divide it into 3 equal parts, thirds, and I'm going to give you 2 of those 3 parts, 2/3. Well, that means I would be giving you 6 presents. Well, I'm not going to give you any presents, but let's look at the mathematics behind this problem. 2/3 of 9 is the same concept as 2/3 times 9. And 2/3 times 9 is the same idea as 2/3 added together 9 times. Remember that multiplication is just a shortcut for repeated addition. So if we have 2/3 added together 9 times, how many thirds do we get? 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. We get 18 thirds. And 18 thirds is the same thing as 6. So 2/3 of 9 does equal 6. So notice what's happening here with the mathematics when we do 2/3 times 9. We've got 2/3, and we're going to rewrite 9 in fraction form, 9 over 1. And we said 2/3 times 9 ended up being 18 thirds, and 18 thirds is 6. So where did we get the 18 from? Well, when we multiply fractions, we're just going to multiply the two numerators together. 2 times 9 is going to be our numerator, and we multiply the two denominators together, 3 times 1, and so we get 18 in the numerator and 3 in the denominator, and then when we simplify it we get 6. So multiplying fractions is pretty easy to remember the steps. Multiply the numerators together, multiply the denominators together, and you'll get your answer. Let's look at another nice shortcut when we're multiplying with fractions. When we multiply numerator times numerator, 1 times 4, and denominator times denominator. All right, well, this is just multiplying, and in multiplication we can use the commutative property. So let's say, just for kicks and giggles, I wanted to do 4 times 1 over 4 times 5. I can do that because in multiplication you can change the order. And look what happens. I get 4 over 4, and 4 over 4 simplifies to 1. 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 4 divided by 4 is 1. So my answer is just 1/5. I don't even have to do any mathematics. I don't have to multiply anything. So the trick here is to recognize when you can simplify your fractions before you multiply them. You're going to be looking for a common factor that you can divide out anywhere in the numerator and anywhere in the denominator. So if you're paying attention, you can see that in the numerator I have a 4, and in the denominator I have a 4, and they have a common factor of 4, so I'm going to divide by 4 in the numerator, and that leaves me with 1, and I'm going to divide by 4 in the denominator, and that leaves me with 1. So now when I multiply my numerators, I have 1 times 1, and multiply my denominators, I have 1 times 5, which is how I get my 1/5. So if you can remember to look for those common factors in the numerator and denominator, then you can simplify before you multiply, or we also call that canceling out, and that's going to make your math problem go quicker and keep your numbers smaller. So I'm sure you've been asking yourself, but what do I do? How do I multiply if I have mixed numbers? Don't you worry, we'll figure that out. It's not too bad. What you're going to do is you're going to rewrite your mixed numbers into improper fractions and then multiply. So 3 times 5 is 15. 15 plus 3 is 18. So I have 18/5. And then 1 and 1/12 is 1 times 12 is 12, plus 1 is 13/12. So I have 18/5 times 13/12. Now those numbers are looking a little bit big, and we're thinking, how am I going to multiply with those big numbers? But first, we're going to recognize that we have a common factor between 18 and 12. what factor can I divide out of both 18 and 12? Well, they're both divisible by 2, and that would help us a little bit, but is there a larger factor that we could divide out of both 18 and 12? Yep, you're right. We can divide them both by 6. So let's do 18 divided by 6 and 12 divided by 6. So we're going to simplify before we multiply. 18 divided by 6 is 3, and 12 divided by 6 is 2. So now let's clean this up and take a look at what we have now. We have 3/5 times 13/2. Those numbers are a little bit easier for us to deal with. So let's multiply our numerators. 3 times 13 is 39. Multiply our denominators. 5 times 2 is 10. And then we always want to simplify. We want to rewrite this improper fraction as a mixed number. 10 goes into 39 3 whole times, and there'll be 9 of those tenths left over. So to multiply with mixed numbers, we just want to rewrite them as improper fractions first, and then go ahead and multiply them. Okay, why don't you go ahead and try a couple problems. For the first one, why don't you try 3/4 times -1/2. Now, what do you think you're going to do with that negative? That's right, you're going to deal with it just like we learned how to deal with negatives when we were working with integers. You're going to multiply the two fractions together and then decide, should my answer be positive or negative? So don't let that negative number throw you off track. The second one that I want you to try is 1/3 times 4.5. So remember to rewrite that mixed number as an improper fraction, and always be looking for ways to simplify before you multiply. Of course, no lesson is complete without our beloved story problem. So let's look at this one. The weight of an object on the moon is 1/6 its weight on Earth. If a bowling ball weighs 12.5 pounds on Earth, how much does it weigh on the moon? Okay, so let's get our thoughts together here. We know that something on the moon is 1/6 what it weighs on Earth. So it's 1/6 of its Earth weight. So in other words, something on the moon is 1/6 times what it weighs on the Earth. And in this case, we know that the bowling ball weighs 12.5 pounds on Earth. So we know that we're looking for 1/6 times that Earth weight of 12.5 pounds. So that's the expression we're going to use to find our answer. So let's go ahead and evaluate that expression. 1/6, and we're going to take 12.5 and rewrite that into an improper fraction. 12 times 2 is 24, and 24 plus 1 is 25, so I have 25 halves times 1/6. And we're going to first look to see if we can simplify before we multiply. And I don't see any common factors anywhere in the numerator and denominator this time, so we can't simplify. We're just going to multiply. We're going to take our numerators. 1 times 25 is 25. And then we're going to multiply our denominators. 6 times 2 is 12. And then we're going to rewrite that improper fraction as a mixed number. 12 goes into 25 2 whole times, with one of those twelfths left over. And then we're going to wrap it all up with a nice sentence. So again, how much does that bowling ball weigh on the moon? So we could say something like, the bowling ball weighs 2 1/12 pounds on the moon.